Morning all and welcome to this our normally called PGNR program we used to call it, and I was always impressed with this Ramcharit Manas का जो दोहा था which says के जो तात स्वर्ग अपवर्ग सुख धरे तुला एकांग तूल त्राही सकल मिली जो सुख लव सत्संग। जो सत्संग के अंदर जो मजा है वो और किसी चीज के अंदर नहीं है। और मैं इस चीज को जो जो एकेडमिक डिस्कशन है ये सब है, इसको एक सत्संग की तरह ही जो है वो मानते हुए चल रहा हूँ। और so today is World Leprosy Day. In fact, in our country, it has been linked with this father of nations that Dr. गांधी जी के साथ में जोड़ा हुआ है. But International Leprosy Day जो है, World Leprosy Day has been linked with the last Sunday of the January. So I thought we will do this, and I welcome today's speakers. Am I audible and my screen is visible?
Yes, you are audible.
Yes. So I welcome Professor Dr. H.K. Kar, Dr. Kiran Katoch, and our today's chairperson, Dr. V.M. Katoch. We have got Dr. U.S. Agarwal, was an ex-former principal, and Dr. Lalit Gupta, senior professor from Udaipur. So we are doing all these kind of program every week. So welcome Dr. Kar with a floral bouquet, virtual bouquet.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I request Dr. Agarwal to kindly introduce him briefly.
Yes, sir. Good evening. It's my privilege to introduce Dr. Kar, who is one of the senior most dermatologists in India, over 36 years of the experience. He had done work in many fields, including ringworm, nail diseases, hyperpigmentation. He is a fellow of dermatology, venereology and leprosy, and fellow Thailand in HIV, STD, and lesions. He has many awards to his credit, including Lifetime Achievement Award by PGI MER, Dry RM Hospital, New Delhi on 12th March 2015 on World Kidney Day. His special interests are dermatology, cosmetology, psoriasis, vitiligo, and leprosy. He is member of many academic bodies, and we are happy and we are honored to have him today as a speaker on the World Leprosy Day, and will be enlightening us on leprosy today.
And our second speaker is none else than the famous Dr. Kiran Katoch. Dr. Katoch, Dr. Kiran, please accept our virtual bouquet.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And I'll request Dr. Lalit to kindly introduce Dr. Kiran Katoch.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Kiran Katoch has been a very well-known figure in India for research, particularly in leprosy. She has been a former director, National Jalma Institute of Leprosy and Other Mycobacterial Diseases, Agra. And she has been in charge, Model Rural Research Health Unit at Kanpur. And she has been a former director for ICMR. She has to her credit several research publications spanning over many years, and she has to her credit several awards and honors. To name a few, she has been a recipient of Dr. CGS Iyer Oration Award for ICMR in 1989, Jalma Trust Fund Oration Award for ICMR 1994, Best Poster Award of IAL in 1999, Vasvik Award 2002 of Vivid Lakshi, Ayodhyogik Samodhan Vikas Kendra, Sher Kashmir Sheikh Mohammad Abdullah Oration Award 2009, Srimati Pushpa Sri Ramchari Award Oration Award for 2015. So it's our honor to have her here today and have her views on the World Leprosy Day.
We'll also introduce, we'll also offer bouquet to our today's chairperson, Dr. V.M. Katoch. And Dr. Katoch, Dr. Lalit, can you please briefly introduce Dr. Katoch?
Sure, sir. Although Dr. Katoch doesn't need any introduction, he is a very pioneer, figure in the research in the medical field. He has been a graduate from Shimla and postgraduate from All India Institute of Medical Sciences with a special training at Long Beach, USA, and the National Institute of Medical Research in UK. He joined ICMR long ago and was posted at Jalma, Agra, 1978, and then he became the director of this institute and was selected as the first secretary to the Government of India, Department of Health, Research, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, and is presently the Director General of ICMR, New Delhi. He has, to his credit, immense achievements and publications, approximately 2050 research papers, and he has been a recipient of several awards, including the Young Scientist Award of IAMM in 1985, Sheikh Abdullah Oration Award in 89, Dr. CGS Iyer Oration Award of ICMR, Erwin Stindi Memorial Oration Award of German Leprosy Relief Organization 91, Dr. S.C. Agrawal Oration Award in 94, Prize in 1999, Jalma Trust Fund Oration Award of ICMR in 1999, IAMM Endowment Award in 2003, and Renbexy Science Foundation Award 2004. He's also a fellow of the National Academy of Science, India, and National Academy of Medical Sciences and Indian Academy of Science, Bangalore. So it's our honor to have you here, sir, and welcome here, sir.
Dr. Manisha, can you please present a bouquet, this virtual felicitation to Dr. Kar and Dr. Kiran? Manisha?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I am really privileged to welcome you, sir and madam. And we have been associated with you since a long time. And we have been reading book of Dr. H.K. Kar on leprosy. And we have been taking guidance from ma'am many times in our department also. Ma'am, please accept the bouquet.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Dr. US, please present the bouquet to virtual felicitation to Dr. Katoch, sir, also. Dr. US, Dr. Lalit. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Bilkul sir, thank you very much. Thanks, sir. Thank you, Professor Agarwal.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And now we start the this thing. And I'll request Dr. Kar. And before that, I'll welcome Dr. Suresh, Mr. Suresh Kaul I have seen. So, Mr. Suresh, can you raise your hand? Suresh Kaul is was a very unique personality that he is looking after the Kusht Ashram here in Jaipur last several years. How many years, Suresh? Mr. Kaul?
It's 42 to 43 years, and not only ashram.
Yes, sir.
You're working for the rehabilitation and welfare and the empowerment of leprosy affected.
So I just immediately, in the morning, I told him that we are doing a program on leprosy, and
It's a privilege.
So it's a privilege to have him. We will also have his views also in the end from the social point of view. So please.
I have worked with him, sir. Dr. Dinesh Mathur, sir. I have worked with Mr. Kaul.
Yes.
Yes. That's right, Dr.
We are
Agarwal.
very old friends. So
We all are very.
Dr. Kar, can you share your screen and
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's okay. It's coming up.
Yes, you can
Yes.
do it on the full.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Respected and Dr. Katoz, our chairperson.
You can do it on the full, otherwise it will do some mistakes.
Yes, I'll make it full, Agrawal. Full. Yeah. So thank you, Professor Mathur, Professor Agrawal, Professor Gupta, and my dear colleague, Dr. Kiran Katoz, and the sir. So being a clinician, it's a difficult task to talk about epidemiology and National Leprosy Eradication Program, because from dermatologist perspective, probably we all dermatologists should know a little bit about the epidemiology and NLP program of the country. That's why I take this privilege to speak on this, which is not usual talk from me. Okay, sir. So in this, I don't have any conflict of interest. Whatever I did, collected the data from the WHO and from the National Power, Government of India, Minister of Health. I just spoke all those things. So I divide my talk into epidemiological updates, both global and India. Then go back to, then we'll go to National Leprosy Eradication Program India, what is going on now. The epidemiological data, and they divided the WHO with 4 parameters basically to see the progress of the control program. One is prevalence rate of leprosy, then new case detection rate, and rate of grade 2 disability, and child leprosy rate. Earlier, we are using different denominators, 10,000, 1 lakh, 1 million. Now, WHO made it mandatory, and now used report as denominator of all rates by million population. So all the parameters per million population. That's the latest information. And what I collected from this WHO organization, the latest report from September 2022, and this was the report. They have collected, WHO collected from almost 160 countries from all 6 regions, African region, American region, Eastern Mediterranean region, European region, Southeast Asia region. This is the most important region, Southeast Asia region, where the India and Indonesia lies, and most of the leprosy patients are from these 2 countries. And I'll go back to the other one. Let me go to show me in a bigger way. It looks more okay.
That's right.
Yeah. So if you look into the registered prevalence of leprosy, this is the report till 2019 by WHO. A number of registered cases at the end of 2019, total 1,77,000. You can see here 2,77,000. And if you look into the prevalence rate per 1 million, it comes 22.4. And if you look at the number of new cases detected, they have already detected 2,02,185 by the end of 19, and the new case detection rate is 25.9. This is the data up to the end of 2019. And if sorry, you see the geographical distribution of new leprosy cases, very dark blue. This is Brazil from South America, and India from Southeastern Asia, and also Indonesia. These three countries almost combined together, they contribute about 80% of the whole world leprosy population. So if you look at the comparative data of new cases detected by 2019, WHO Southeast Asia region reported 71% of all global cases from two countries, India about 120,000 and Indonesia 17,000 cases, contributed almost 92% of the cases in this region. If you look into the American region, the Brazil continued to report the high case levels, around 28,660 cases, representing almost 93% of all the American regions. If you combine, Brazil, India, and Indonesia accounted for about 79.6% of all cases, new cases detected globally. So whatever the program is focusing WHO on these three countries, Brazil, India, and Indonesia. If you look in the trend in the last 10 years, this is very, we're not very happy the program, the way it's going on. If you look in 2010, the total number of new, trend of number of rate of new leprosy patients, it was 34.44 per 1 million in 2010, and it is reduced very, very slowly last 10 years, and now it is reached 25.9. So, but the good part is, if you look at the new child case rate, it was earlier 11.5 in 2010, and it is better than total reduction is very quite better gradual. You can see 7.78. So 11.27. If you calculate comparative data, you can see the most important indicator for ongoing transmission leprosy. We always consider how many child cases are there, how many grade 2 deformity there. Whenever we find more child cases, indirectly indicate there is transmission of leprosy is going on in the community. So for a grade 2 disability is concerned, it indicates late diagnosis, because when the patient remains without treatment for a long period, they develop grade 2 deformity. That is an indication of late diagnosis, and indirectly also leads to how the ongoing transmission is going on in the community. So if you analyze global child case reduction encouraging, that's the only thing I told you earlier. The new case, there is a greater decrease trend than total cases. It's almost, you can see the 27% reduction in the last 10 years. Whereas if you compare with the total number of new cases, all the reduction is only 11.8%. So that indicates the program is very actively going on last 10 years, but it's not very sufficient enough to achieve the target in the next 10 years. So we have to do lot of new assigned good works to really, if you want to reduction of the cases in coming 10 years. So the data, WHO target is reduction of to 0.8 per million children by 2030 from the present situation. Present situation is 7.8 per million in 19, and we have reduced to 0.8 by the next 10 years. So how to do that? If this is the then the deformity, grade 2 deformity. If you can look here, the total grade 2 deformity cases are untreated cases with deformity 13,000 in 2010, and now it is 2019. It is 10,000. Very minimal reduction of new cases with grade 2 deformity from 13,000 to 10,000. It's not a very very good figure. But if you look in Southeast Asia, so far as India and Indonesia is concerned, it's a good reduction, 6,000, almost 7,000 earlier, and this is wrong. This is 4,817, so reduction about 40% of grade 2 deformity in our zones, India and Indonesia, quite encouraging. That shows our control case program is going actively in India and Indonesia as compared to American. You can see here in Brazil particularly, total 2,400 cases are 10. Now you look into 19, it's more, 2,544. So Brazil, so for Brazil concerned, deformity, that means late diagnosis is going on still in Brazil. And the next, if you see the comparative data of global grade 2 deformity, the trend in new grade 2 deformity by WHO region also shows a significant decrease, particularly our south, as I told you, southeastern zone, including India and Indonesia, it has reduction about 45%, whereas this has influenced the decrease in new grade 2 disability cases globally. Globally, reduction is only 26%, whereas in our Southeast Asia, the reduction is 45%. The global leprosy strategy, which is just over this year, 2016 to 20, the three main targets were 0 new child cases with grade 2 deformity, reduction of new grade 2 deformity cases less than 1 per million population, and 0 countries with laws or legislation that allow discrimination on the basis of leprosy. By 2019 end data, we still have 370 new child cases with grade 2 deformity, but we have to reach 0 new leprosy cases with grade 2 deformity. So far, on the all 123 countries, almost 96 countries have reached this target, but not in India, Brazil, and Indonesia. We have to still have 370 cases by 19. Maybe at the end of 2020, a result may show maybe some reduction from 370 to something, but it is not 0. Leprosy burden in India, if you look into the India data, around 70% of the leprosy patients of India are diagnosed in 11 out of 36 states and union territories in the country, namely Assam, Bihar, Chhattisgarh is the highest cases, followed by Odisha, Delhi, Gujarat, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Odisha, Uttar Pradesh, and West Bengal. So these are the 11 states which are still endemicity is very high, more than 1 per 10,000. Based on the total new case, balance cases and grade 2 disability and child case, still we have 170 districts out of 739 are still graded as high endemic. So the active program is going on this, particularly focusing on these 117 districts. New cases decreased from this number last year from 17 to 18, decrease of about 15,000, and reduction of new cases, new child cases from 10,000 to 9,000, about reduction of 1,000. But unfortunately, because of Corona pandemic last year, the last 1 year, the detection was very less. And if you look in the state, the individual state figure, the detection was not much actually. Probably this reduction is not actual figure because the election, detection of new cases was not very good in the last 1 year because of Corona pandemic. And the success of NLEP, if you look into it, National Leprosy Eradication Program started in 1983, and where in 83 the prevalence rate was 54 for 10,000, and now it has come down to 0.6% per 10,000 population by March 19. Its reduction is almost 99%. This is very good. We have achieved 99% leprosy free, but still the last 1% is a problematic for us. We have to go a long way to take care of this 1%. But the 1% is a very big figure. In last 10 years, we didn't achieve much. Probably we hope introduction of certain accessory measures in the coming 10 years, 2020, 21 to 30, we could do something. The country achieved the goal of leprosy elimination as a public health problem, prevalence rate that is 1 case per 10,000 by December 2005. That's good. But if you look in the district level, to reach elimination as a public health problem, registered prevalence of less than 10,000 in all districts. That is the specific objective for NLP. We have to achieve this elimination every district. That's the objective of our NLP program. And also to reduce the annual new case detection rate to less than 10 per 1 lakh, same 1 per 10,000 population in all districts. So we have to achieve not only prevalence, but also new case detection rate less than 1 per 10,000. To achieve a treatment completion rate also more than 95% of multibacillary cases and more than 97% in paucibacillary cases. Also to reduce the grade 2 deformity proportion among the new cases to 2% and to reduce the level of stigma. So these are the specific objectives for the NLP till 2020. And if you look in the components of the control program, the most important, very most important is early case detection and management and completion of the treatment. Second is disability prevention and medical rehabilitation, DPVRT. And third is most important, IEC program. Unless you remove the stigma, patients will not come forward for voluntarily for treatment. and also behavior change communication, that is BCC. Human resource and capacity building training program is very important. We have to train continuously. We have to teach, we have to refresh training program for ASA, medical officers, or the paramedical workers. It should be a continuous one to give them education how to detect the cases early and to confirm the cases early so that they can start the treatment. And the most important is the last one, program management. Unless we have a lot of all these components, but unless it is implemented properly, managed properly, then probably we cannot achieve full 100% whatever we have made the components or the strategy. The strategy, the three-pronged parts from 1916-17, it is going on. One is leprosy case detection campaign, LCDC. It is house-to-house survey in villages and urban areas in identified high-burden districts. So 116 high-burden districts are there. So there it is going on leprosy case detection campaign and focused leprosy campaign. This is very important. Active case search where a new case with a grade 2 deformity is detected. This search targets about 300 and surrounding households in urban areas of the entire or in the entire village in the rural areas. So if you find a case of grade 2 deformity, the whole village has to be searched for active case. That is the active search program, and that is really help to find out new cases. And a special plan for hard to reach areas, there is provision of leprosy services through community participation. When there are certain villages there in this country where the road is not there, beyond the river, on the other side of the river, so they have certain provision where the medicine can reach the patients to complete his treatment through community participation. The other initiative strategy NLP has taken last 2 years, the Spurs Leprosy Awareness Campaign, SLAC. This campaign is organized, actually yesterday it was the day, every year on 13th January, this Spurs Leprosy Awareness Campaign. A lot of IEC program, a lot of BCC program is going on yesterday. Again, I telephoned to few states to find out what is going on, but unfortunately, because of Corona pandemic, it was not very successful yesterday. I asked Professor Dr. Pati, who is in charge of NGO in Odisha. He told we went there, program went on, but it's not very successful yesterday because of this Corona problem. ASA-based surveillance, this is the most important part for leprosy suspect, that is called AFSALs in districts not covered under LCDC. And now, very recently, just 4 months back, in September 2020, it was replaced by ACDRS, that is active case detection and regular surveillance. Regular means every 6 monthly, and certain hyperendemic district, they made it every 3 monthly even. ASA has to visit each and every member of the village every 3 monthly once to see any new cases. That's a quite good program, National Leprosy Index program initiated last year in September 2020. And most important is post-exposure prophylaxis. Even WHO declared, given single-dose rifampicin, our NLP has started this single-dose rifampicin to all the contacts of the index case. MIP vaccine, that we were just discussing. MIP vaccine started in 2 years back in the project mode in collaboration with ICMR. They started in Gujarat, and now it is going to Maharashtra, then Bihar. So that's a good thing. After a long 20-25 years trial of MIP vaccine, it could see the light of implementation. Unfortunately, in the company, he agreed to supply the vaccine freely to all the needy in India, at least, because they are exporting most of the vaccines, but the company agreed to supply vaccine free of cost to Government of India. The epidemiological investigation of occurrence of grade 2 deformity, that is also important, as a part of the new components. And last is Spurs Leprosy Elimination Campaign, that is launched in 2nd October, again Gandhi Jayanti Day, as a homage to Gandhiji on his 105th birth anniversary for achieving grade 2 deformity less than 1 per million. That was launched in 2019. So ultimately, the aim of based on WHO strategy, NLP, reduction of rate of new cases presenting with grade 2 deformity less than 1 per million, countrywide 0 new leprosy cases with grade 2 deformity, child cases and zero backlog of persons eligible for reconstructive surgery. Those who already have grade 2 deformity, you have to do the surgery, reconstructive surgery, to make the backlog zero. And widespread community awareness to reduce the stigma and stop discrimination. The activities, just to summarize, diagnosis and treatment of leprosy that is going on. Difficult to diagnose complicated cases requiring reconstructive surgery, it has to be referred to the district hospitals and to other, or maybe to tertiary care hospital for management of the complications like type 2 reaction or type 1 reactions. And training of the general health staff like medical officers, health workers, health supervisors, laboratory technicians, ASA are conducted every year to develop adequate skill in the diagnosis and management of leprosy cases. Urban leprosy center are all cities where the population is more than 1 lakh. MDT delivery service, follow-up patients for treatment of completion, providing supportive medicines, dressing material, monitoring and supervision, and in addition, IC program. NGO service under ACT scheme, presently about 43 NGOs are working in this country from Government of India grant under survey, education and treatment scheme. Activities, they are having IC program, they are conducting IC activities, and also prevention of impairment of deformities, and many cases, case detection and MDT delivery. All NGOs, they're really acting very sincerely in all the states. Every state is taken over by one NGO, and they take care of the states regarding of this IC program, prevention, and most of the LCDC, probably NGO people are working more on IC program. Disability prevention and medical rehabilitation, DPMRT, is the main activity for prevention of disability among the persons with anesthetic hand and feet, provision of dressing material for ulcer development, supportive medicines, microcellular rubber footwear supply. Patients empowered with self-care procedure for taking care of themselves. They have been provided a self-care kit. Those who have anesthetic ulcer, they are already having ulcer, they can take care of the ulcer with a training at the PSC, so they can go back with the self-care kit and they can take care of the anesthetic fit in the evening. Correction of a disability in the leprosy affected person through reconstructive surgery, and for this we have almost 112 recognized institutions for conducting RCS based on the recommendation of the state government. About 60 are government institutions and 52 NGO institutions. Every state has government facilities and non-government NGO facility wherever they want to go, and they can finish all backlog cases of grade 2 deformity has to be corrected. Those are eligible for correction. The special activity in high endemic zones, I told you, 209 districts had reported NCDR more than 10 per lakh, is 1 per 10,000, and special activities of early detection and completion rate is going on there. Capacity building and extensive IEC program, adequate availability of MDT, strengthening of district nucleus, regular monitoring and supervision and review, regular follow-up for neuritis and reaction, self-care practice, supply of NCR food, and improvement of the RCS performance, particularly those districts where the deformity cases, grade 2 deformity cases are there. So they have been operated through camp approach. Supervision and monitoring is very important. As I told you, program monitored at different level, analysis even at the ASA level, in the PSC level, district level, state level, and ultimate national people, our CLD, the monitoring, visiting by a joint monitoring team with members from Government of India, ILAP, and WHO initiated from the year 2012. And every year this program is continued to see the monitoring the NLP program and advise them what to do in the in future. So this is a very good thing. Emphasis is given to new case detection, treatment completion rate, proportion of grade 2 disability among the new cases. Involvement ASA to bring out the leprosy suspected cases from the village at PSC level for diagnosis and follow-up cases for treatment of completion. Incentives have been provided on confirmation of diagnosis of case brought by them. They get 250 rupees. On completion of the full course of treatment of the case within specified time for passive study, they are getting extra 400 rupees at the end of the treatment and 600 rupees for multivariate cases at the end of treatment. If the completion is regular and complete treatment is completed, then they get this amount. Even in an early case, before onset of any visible deformity, they get 250 rupees. A new case with visible deformity in hand and feet, they get less 200 rupees, because probably the case was diagnosed early. That is the responsibility of the ASA, why a patient remained and he got grade 2 deformity. That's why they get a less price. So this is indirectly encouragement to detect the cases early so that they will get more money. They have newsletter we are getting all from the CLD quarterly publication. That's a good thing. NLP newsletter will share the guidelines, feedback, best practices, experience, activities undertaken in the program in coordination with the partner, state, NGO, institutes, even medical colleges and associations. As one of the important tools for communication to keep informed, update, and educate our stakeholders as well as target groups. This is a very good initiative developed by our CLD 4 or 5 years back. This LCDC campaign implemented in high endemic districts, as I told you, in line with the Pulse Polio campaign by Central Leprosy Division. In this campaign, each and every person in the house is examined to detect all hidden cases in the community. And here for LCDC, they have a good micro planning. Before that, they have a micro planning selection of male volunteers for the house-to-house search scheme, because sometimes all our ASA are ladies, so probably male persons may not show them all over the body. They cannot examine the skin all over the body. So that's why some selection of male volunteers there from house-to-house search, and training to the field level staff, intensive IC activities, all activities related to LCDC monitored by the Central Leprosy Division and coordinated by states through various subcommittees formed at the state and the district level. This is the, I'll not show this one because this is Odisha. Yesterday I used to spoke, I had to speak on Odisha account, so I'm just skipping it. So these are all I collected information about DGHS, Ministry of Health, Government of India, updated up to August 2020. And if you look into the expected, the SimcoLep model, as you know, we are all trying this PEP++, a combination of rifamycin and clarithromycin to all the close contacts of index cases, because in our earlier single dose rifamycin program, what we find, the single dose rifamycin prophylaxis doesn't help much in very close contacts who are staying, particularly in the household contacts, because they are being exposed to infection till the index case become non-infective. That's the reason probably close contacts didn't get much protection. It's only 30%, whereas the distant contacts, they get protection up to 70%. So in order to take care of this part, there's a research model has been developed by SimcoLep, and then we're trying now in Brazil, Indonesia, and India, 2 districts from each state. This research program is going on under this provision of NLP, NLR. They got funding, DREAM project. It's a huge fund they got from them, and now they are doing this project. It's going on in 3 countries. Hope if we really got success, then we can get almost 90% reduction with immunoprophylaxis and chemoprophylaxis. At the end, we can get 90% reduction of new cases by the end of 2030. This is the SIMCO model hypothesis. Let's hope we can get more than 90% reduction in another next 10 years. So thank you very much. The relapse case, people are very much worried about relapse. If you look into the WHO global figure, relapse is not much, only 2,700 from 54 countries, Brazil 1,400, India 500, Indonesia 200 members. So we're not much more about second line drug. People, particularly dermatologists, I must tell them, they should not worried about starting second line drug immediately to all patients. They should not do that, because the relapse rate is very low, even with the present MDT regimen. So I request all the dermatologists, they should confine to the WHO and NLP regimen for management of leprosy cases. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot, Dr. Ahmed. It was indeed an excellent presentation. And now I'll request, I'll invite Dr. Kiran Katoch to give a presentation, please.
I'll just
I'll do it.
I'll just take out the screen.
I'll do it.
Okay.
Right. So Dr. Kiran, can you please share your screen? Just very nice. We can see your screen. Make it on full, please. Excellent. Thank you very much and welcome, Dr. Kiran Katoch. You are muted. Dr. Kiran, you are muted. Yes, now you are unmuted. You can.
Okay.
Right.
मुझे नहीं बोल. Okay, sir. Good morning. Namaskar. And it was a very informative lecture. I was saying a special namaskar to. आप ही ने की है. I was saying it to Mr. Suresh Kaul, who I was seeing after several years, and had a nice interaction with him. कहाँ आ रहा है?
Thank you so much, madam. Thank you so much. It's my privilege.
अब नीचे तो करो. Sir, this
is visible. You can change this slide.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine now.
Sir, there is no. कहाँ है? Slide तो नीचे आता है.
Simply change this slide. Probably it will come. It is enlarged in this thing. Somebody.
No, he got it. Sir,
Now it is all right. Now you start changing the slides.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Right.
Sir, this is the tribute to the father of our nation and who started treating as well as taking care of people of leprosy even before Dapsone had appeared, sir. Thank you very much. And I was just saying a tribute to him as to all of you. See, there are certain challenges of leprosy, and among them is it is there since mankind is known. In all history of mankind, leprosy is mentioned. It is still not cultivable in any artificial media, although the genome has been sequenced. The signs and symptoms are mainly of the skin and nerves, and these two are very subtle symptoms. The other organs are also involved, but they don't manifest so early. It only in a very, very late stages. So the main signs and symptoms are pertaining to the skin and nerves. It has a long and variable incubation period, varying from few days to several years. It is associated with disability and stigma. There is very low mortality. Like TB, another mycobacterial disease, TB has a very high mortality. So everybody's attention is drawn towards it because of the high mortality rate and the high morbidity rate. In leprosy, the morbidity is only because of the disabilities as well as the reactions. And because of the disabilities, it was believed that it is because of curse, the stigma is attached to it, not from today, it is from time immemorial. Of course, with the treatment of leprosy, the stigma has reduced tremendously, but it still remains. And now what it remains is more of self-stigma rather than of the societal stigma. Now, the treatment in leprosy, like in all other diseases, there are operational reasons for classifying the disease and for treating. But here, it does not take into consideration any scientific evidence. It is mainly decided on operational feasibility. I'm saying this especially because even when MDT first came in, when it was said that rifampicin is very good, clofazimine should be added, dapsone should be added for multibacillary leprosy, what it was done was, this was one regimen for the rest of the world. But for USA, it was a daily regimen. And it was being treated for a long time. Here, and I can agree, I can understand the WHO's limitations that they have to spread it worldwide. It has to be given globally. It has to be given in areas where there is not so much endemicity. It has to be given in very endemic areas, very poor areas, very unhygienic areas. So whatever was decided, it was basically on the operational feasibility. It was not on any scientific evidence or test. TB as it is a different thing. It is a different it is based on both operational this thing as well as scientific evidence. But leprosy, it is still not. Although it has come down tremendously, but it is still not based on any scientific evidence. And a substantial proportions of people suffer from reactions which can occur before treatment, during treatment, and also after release from treatment. The WHO does not has not introduced this into the program way in how we take care of this. We have no column to say that the patient had reaction. There is no way how to assess the reaction ever occurred during treatment, or when we are doing the surveillance, it has occurred and there is disability. So these are some challenges which are there. The other challenges which are there are again mentioned here. Dr. Carr has shown this figure very nicely, and he has explained all of this. But I would just say, because this is one of the challenges left from the last time, like when we achieved elimination in December 2005 to 2019 and 20, the graph showing the prevalence and the annual new case detection rate is nearly going on at a very, very slow pace. Why? Yes, earlier the MDT, as soon as it was given, there was a drastic fall both in the new cases as well as in the prevalence of cases. Now it has stopped. So can we do it by MDT alone, or something else is required? This is one of the challenges. Then what we see in tuberculosis, you have a program, the RNTCP or the NTEP as it is now called, that you have all private practitioners have to notify this thing. All tertiary care hospitals have to notify the new TB cases. But we don't have it in leprosy. Whatever comes is only those people who report. It is merged with the National Health Services. That is good because it can help in reducing the stigma. But the sad part of it is lesser people come to report because of the subtle signs and symptoms. And most patients with disabilities and with a high BI, they go to a tertiary care hospital. And there is no reporting from them. So what our data is saying is only what are self-reporting. Most of our tertiary care centers, medical colleges, as well as private practitioners do not report the leprosy cases to the program. So what we are seeing is only the tip of the iceberg. There are lots of cases unreported which are there. And this is what is reflected in the tertiary care. This thing that now, whatever papers and whatever people are saying is patients are coming with a high BI. They are reporting with histoid leprosy. They are reporting with disabilities in a tertiary care center, but not in the NLEP program. So what we see is probably is a very small proportion which is being reflected in NLEP. The access to services is not optimum. That is that the patient is not satisfied with whatever the program is saying. And what it is saying, and the referral system from the PHC to the district hospital is also not adequate and not optimum, which needs to be strengthened. And a surveillance system post MDT for taking care of the morbidity that was associated with the disease needs to be more strengthened. Now, the stable incidence of child cases. Yes, there is a fall of about 1% in the last 3-4 years. But is it a real fall, or more child cases are going to a tertiary care center, or more are being just reporting and they are not bothered about it, or whatever it is? This needs to be taken to be seen. There is a very small decline in the disability rate. 1% decline in the disability rate from 5, which was in 2016-17, it has come to 3 point something. This is the disability rate. But what is this disability rate that we are reporting? That is only case 2 deformities, the grade 2 deformities. Nobody is reporting on the grade 1 deformity. Actually, the grade 1 disability leads to grade 2 disability. And unless we catch it early, they all end up with permanent disability, which is grade 2 disability, where most of the time you required reconstructive surgery, and a few of them do benefit or can continue their life with other physiotherapy measures like splints and others, so that they can have a meaningful life. But this is what that the disabilities need to be done, and we should take them early, not only grade 2, at least in the national program. We should take care of the grade 1 disabilities as well, or those patients which are more prone to get this grade 1 grade 1 to grade 2 disabilities. Now, we have already seen by this graph that the present day MDT cannot take care of this transmission because new cases are continuing. So we require better and more robust treatments. We also require robust treatment for taking care of antimicrobial resistance, although this is very low. I agreed it is very low. But in several tertiary care centers, they are reporting at least 2 drug resistance. That is rifampicin ofloxacin, the most common. Rifampicin dapsone is next to follow. But we need a surveillance mechanism so that it doesn't go out of hand and something can be done right at the start. So with this, I will just saying that we require a multifactorial approach to tackle this last step before we reach the goal of no leprosy, which would require several agencies, including the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, the steps to improve nutrition, as well as empowerment of the society. All these 3 will contribute to tackle the disease, both the invading organism as well as the host and the environmental factors. So what is required now is not just a single MDT and reporting. I think it requires everything, as was done from in earlier times. So the first thing that I would say is early diagnosis. Nowadays, the diagnosis is only on operational classifications, PB, MB, less than 5 skin lesion or nerve lesion is PB, and more than 5 is MB leprosy, and they are given different duration of treatment. But the smears are not being done. At least the tertiary care centers and the dermatologists can do it. And now with the PCR technology, COVID is being identified with the PCR technology, with the RT-PCR. Why we can also do it. It is available. The RLEPS is the specific sequence of M. leprae, which can be detected by simple, by just making a simple chip and identifying it, even at the PHC level. We have done it in the field. We have shown that it detects much more than what a skin smear would do. And just as you do the smear, you can also do this. This is being done for TB, where they are also doing the NAT testing. We can also do the RLEP testing for PCR for a better diagnosis, to come to a better conclusion, to see the trends and monitor the disease. So this figure on this side, just on the right hand side, just shows that how this PCR, RLEP PCR, is at least double to triple times better than what is done by a skin smear. And it is also possible in paucibacillary leprosy. In paucibacillary leprosy, where the AFB is negative, here also 60% of these patients are found to be PCR positive even in the paucibacillary type. These molecular tools can also be used for surveillance of drug resistance. We already have those tools for rifampicin resistance, for dapsone resistance, as well as for ofloxacin. Probably for minocycline, clarithromycin, they will come in. Clofazimine, yes, it is a little difficult, but these tools should be used for whatever is available, that we should see what is the drug resistance, because it is being reported by tertiary care centers. Then where we are doubtful that this nerve is not thickened, but he still has a loss of sensation, the patient still has a loss of sensation, or there is a tingling sensation, altered sensation, then ultrasonography and radio imaging are very good tools. These tools are also available, at least ultrasonography is available at the tertiary care level, and they should be used to detect the nerve damage. Unfortunately, in most of the countries where leprosy is still endemic, that it is above the elimination level, the emphasis on nerve involvement is not there, except for Brazil, which has now been reporting much more disabilities because of nerve involvement, because this is not looked for at that extent. Nerve involvement is the most important here because that leads to continued morbidity and disabilities of the disease. And ultrasonography, but just attaching a small instrument to your sonography thing can detect the nerve enlargement and also can trace it up to where it is there, up to which level it is there. Like in the elbow, it can go up to the upper arm or to the lower arm. Similarly, in the feet also it can be done. So this is a very good non-invasive tool for detecting nerve involvement, and this should be taken up. And this is what I would think would be one of the way forward. So both PCR technology and ultrasonography for this thing. Now, when we take for the biopsies, most of the people who have in tertiary case where histopathology is done, they say it is non-specific, especially in the early cases or where the biopsy is not taken from the right place. But in situ hybridization with these molecular tools and with immunohistochemistry can demonstrate both the live bacilli as well as the dead bacilli in the tissues and should be done. And it is a very easy thing, can be done in all medical colleges. So this should be taken up for a better diagnosis of leprosy. On the right hand side are two graphs. This just shows by, again, RT-PCR and using the RNA that shows the live bacilli. We could demonstrate in a field area by taking the samples from patients from the lanes where the patients were staying, that both the soil and the groundwater under it was having these bacilli. The RNA, these are the graphs. I'm sorry for the quality of this. I think you will not be able to see it very nicely. But these are the individual patients who showed that there was RNA present in their soils, in the soil samples collected from around their houses, as well as the water which was collected from them, both from the drainage samples. So for the next thing that is a challenge for us is the treatment. Now, what are the main aims of treatment is, of course, curative. There should be no relapses and recurrences, and also there should be no complications and disabilities. What we were for Dr. Carr also related that probably there are very low relapses. Low relapses, the patient is not reporting, or is it we are not looking for it? The other thing we are not looking are complications of reactions and disabilities. We refer them off in a PHC, they are referred off to a district hospital, or the patient voluntarily goes to the tertiary care hospital, and there they are not taken care. So this curative also needs a little emphasis. The other is arrest the transmission of disease. So unless the arresting the transmission, new case will continue to occur and will not be taken care of unless this transmission is taken care of. So first I come to the treatment part. We should optimize our treatment. So we need better treatment modalities, use of immunotherapy with chemotherapy for better outcomes. This is one of the things. I will come to them. And the addition of clofazimine to the treatment of TB cases would help in reducing the reaction part in this. This has been shown several years earlier. In the early 90s, in 2000s, there were several papers which were showing that addition of clofazimine is well accepted. When given to PB patients, they were taking care of both reactions during treatment as well as after release from therapy. Now, the WHO also is taking cognizance of it, and it has come in the recent guidelines published in 2019, in December 2019, of the addition of clofazimine to the paucibacillary regimen. So now the regimen which is advocated by WHO, which has been recommended by WHO, is the same regimen, rifampicin, dapsone, and clofazimine. This is given to MB cases for 12 months or more as required, and for PB cases, it is for 6 months. All these three regimens, all these three drugs in the paucibacillary. For immunotherapy, I would just say BCG, yes, we are using BCG as a universal immunization program, and BCG is given at birth in our country at least, or in the first 5 years of birth of our country. However, leprosy continues to be endemic in spite of this universal program for more than 15 years. So, and new cases are occurring. So probably BCG is not working as we would like it to work, at least in our environment, in our conditions. Probably something else needs to be done. What was done was MIP vaccination was given to as a part of, as an adjunct to MDT in these patients, first in the highly bacillated patients. There it was seen that it attains smear negativity much faster, where the patients at that time were becoming negative in 4 to 5 years, they became negative within 2 years. There was killing of both of the viable bacilli, as seen by mouse footpad experiments and ATP estimation from tissue biopsies. There was clearing of the dead bacilli as well as their products, as seen histopathologically and done independently in several centers across our country. It reduces the incidence and severity of reactions. Dr. Carr is also was a part of it, and he has also reported on this. And it prevents disabilities and nerve damage, including the silent neuropathy and nerve damage which occurs after release from therapy. Besides the acute nerve damage and the painful nerve damage, which can also occur after this. So this addition of MIP reduces both of them. In bacillary patients, yes, if they are positive, faster smear negativity, and there is clearing of bacilli and their products. So therefore, the incidence of reactions is decreased. It also helps. What we did it in JALMA was, it also helps in regaining the sensations much faster, and therefore contributes to a decreased morbidity and better patient acceptability. I'll just show you the graphs that were there. First of all, this is for the multibacillary, highly bacillated patients. As you can see, the smear negative was attained much faster, and the reactions also decreased much earlier as compared to MDT alone. This is of the paucibacillary patients, which are early multibacillary and BT and indeterminate cases. Here, if you see the first figure, it is decrease in size of the lesion is much faster. The second on the right upper one is decrease in erythema in the lesions was much faster. The third bottom one on the left is decrease in infiltration in the lesions. And the last one is there is only a residual loss of sensation was much less in these patients who received both the MDT and the MIP, which was in 2 doses at the start and at the end of therapy for 6 months in these paucibacillary patients. So the patient's acceptability and his way of saying, yes, I have improved. Because otherwise, when you tell a patient after the FDT that now the treatment is being stopped, you have to take care of your hands and feet, and this much sensation will remain. This much loss of sensation, you'll have to live with it, because these nerves cannot be regenerated. But then the patient is not satisfied. He's saying, why did I get any treatment? Why did I take the trouble of getting in? It is still remaining. He'll go from one center to the other to get better treatment. Here, the acceptability is much more. There is return of sensation. So even in paucibacillary, MIP helps in getting back the sensations. This is just the simple of both reactions, type 1 and type 2 reactions. And this I have put it separately just to show that in paucibacillary, it is mostly the type 1 reactions, or early multibacillary, it is type 1 reactions, and type 2 reactions occur in most of the multibacillary forms. Both of these are reduced by the addition of MIP to the treatment regimen, as well as by the addition of clofazimine to the PV regimen. So this is just showing you, depicting you a graphical form that it has reduced tremendously, and it reduces the stigma in the patient as well as in the community. The patient is also more self-confident that fine, I am cured, now I'll have nothing. Otherwise, he has that lingering fear that because the sensation is lost, because the treatment has been stopped, probably he may deteriorate and go into the disabilities. So this is just to depict that after MDT and immunotherapy, what the patient was before and what he was after, so that there is no stigma left, the patient is self-confident and he can continue his life as usual. Besides this, now the other thing was, the third part was of decreasing the transmission. I have put in bold letters, improvement in sanitation. Even when Dapsone was not there, most of the Europe and the so-called Western world had taken care of leprosy by two things. One was better sanitation and hygiene. And second, of course, yes, it also played a part, was isolation of these patients and throwing them out of the society. But there is no doubt that a better cleanliness, a better this drive can take care of most of the infections, including especially if they are of infectious nature. So the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan would definitely go a long way in decreasing the number of new cases that are occurring and decreasing the transmission in the environment. Other is building up immunity in the host. We as a population have quite a substantial number of population which is malnourished. Increasing the immunity to fight other diseases also can help in better fighting of leprosy. Although we know that in leprosy, yes, it is a specific inactivity against the M. leprae as compared to the other organisms. But definitely taking care of the malnutrition and undernutrition can help at least that segment of the society. Vaccination, yes. Dr. Carr talked about immunoprophylaxis of post-exposure chemoprophylaxis. I will also be talking of the immunoprophylaxis. Yes, SDR is no longer being advocated at present, but PEP, as he has already mentioned, is being done under the program in some selected districts. The other strategies which Dr. Carr pointed out very nicely was the IEC activity, for which NLEP needs to be congratulated at the way they are going about it. We have to empower our society by these activities and by telling them what is leprosy. They should no longer, because there should be mass publicity that yes, leprosy is curable, it can be treated. If you have any sign and symptom, please consult a doctor. Capacity building of the health staff is there. Yes, the health staff, he was talking about the ASHAs, about the ANMs. ASHAs have played a crucial role in early detection of leprosy, as he had already mentioned. But this needs to be strengthened further. Because ASHAs need to be updated. They need to be told about this so that they can spread the message. And this logo of Sapna, which was introduced by NLEP in 2017. This is there, that no, don't bother about the stigma. There is no stigma with it. It is a nice girl smiling and saying, come forward, be empowered with the education and take treatment so that you get rid of leprosy. Then the Swachh Bharat campaign, as already said, you intensify case detection strategies. That is already been done by LCDC. It was earlier only in the endemic districts, but soon it was realized that although those 209 districts were categorized as highly endemic, there were many crisscrosses among them. Some of these endemic districts became lesser endemic, and several of these lesser endemic districts came into the endemic zone. So we need to intensify case detection strategies by empowering the population to come forward with any signs and symptoms of leprosy. Engaging treated leprosy active patients in IEC will go a long way in helping, because they are the best ambassadors. They have suffered from the disease, have been overcome the disease, and they are the best ambassadors to give this thing. And people can see it for themselves that these patients are totally non-infected. Even if they have disabilities, they are absolutely they are of no danger to the society. Involvement of the Panchayati Raj members, I think, is very important. Pradhans, Sarpanch, district level, and to the national level, that is more. National level people are there. Our Prime Minister also wanted that leprosy should be in one of the major way where we should give a push. But it should start from the grassroots level, from the Panchayati Raj to the Sarpanches should be a part of it. So ultimately, to summarize, the salient features that would be required to meet these challenges of leprosy are there. Swachhata Abhiyan is one, reducing malnutrition, coverage of universal immunization program. This was not much with this thing, but I would say that when the SDR was being assessed, it was seen that those people where those contacts were more protected, who had a BCG scar than those who were not. So the universal immunization program also helps in a long way. Empowerment of the IC and the society at large. That is the most important, and this should be done periodically and repeatedly. Introduce modern day diagnostic and surveillance system for better diagnosis as well as surveillance of this thing. Better treatment modalities are required. MDT alone probably won't do everything that we are wishing for. Engaging treated leprosy patients to fight the stigma also needs to be done. Better street surveillance strategies so that when we are walking the last mile, we don't fall back and then say that we have lost our thing. We must win the battle, and therefore several better surveillance strategies are required. Preventive vaccination to the vulnerable population, especially the contact population, so that the transmission of leprosy is reduced. And finally, the teamwork is required, right from the program managers to the grassroots ASHA workers. The teamwork is required, including the leprosy affected society. Thank you very much, and I thank you all wholeheartedly for allowing me to present my views on it, and also about for being here on this Sunday. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kiran. It was indeed a pleasure to listen to you after some time. And before I invite Dr. Katoch sir to wind up the session, I'll invite Mr. Suresh Kaul, whom I have invited as a special guest in this sense, to share his views and share his work for next 5 minutes. Because in the end, I will convert this meeting into the homage prayer meeting of our Dr. A.K. Bajaj. So, Mr. Suresh Kaul sahib, आप 5 minute के लिए please you will tell, and then Dr. Katoch sir will tell, and then after that we will convert this meeting into the homage prayer meeting.
Okay. Thank you very much. As we all know that we are on the last mile of the long voyage. This voyage started somewhere, I take it to 1981 when MDT was invented. The intervention of MDT started in our country. And as we all know that the prevalence rate that time was 57 per 10,000 population. And we are happy that now, at present, it is 0.57 per 10,000 population. So this long voyage has been possible only with what we call as inclusion of leprosy affected persons. As I would quote here, the saying of renowned philanthropist Mr. Sasakawa, that this work is like leprosy is like a motorcycle. Motorcycle has two wheels. One wheel is treatment of the disease, and other is the elimination of stigma. If the treatment goes well, as everyone, we all are witness to it, the treatment is going very well, and NLEP has to be congratulated, as Dr. Kiranji also said. So the second part is social approach. And social approach is to eliminate the stigma. If we remember way back in 2010, even the UN General Assembly and United Human Rights Councils also passed a resolution signed by, I think, some 163 countries, which is called as Principles and Guidelines laid by them. It had some 13 various salient features of the guidelines, and that all included to provide holistic approach to the leprosy affected persons. Because we all know that the forehead of a leprosy affected person is always leprosy. We say that once leprosy is always leprosy. So to eliminate that ideology, to remove that stigma that leprosy should not be carried by a person, by a patient, all the life he is living. So we have to take care of the inclusion. And for this inclusion, we have to have the holistic approach. We all are responsible. We are all dedicated to work for the elimination of leprosy. And now the last mile, as we know, is zero leprosy, zero transmission, and zero disability. So that is very much achievable. It will be achieved. In the program, I think my personal views that we will achieve it much before 2030, because now the program is 2021 to 2030. So for that, the second wheel of the motorcycle has to be, very, very active. In this holistic approach, we have to not only provide them treatment, to provide them job opportunities, to increase their capacities, to remove the the dignity which they have lost. That dignity needs to be regained, and that dignity can only be given when we accept them into the society. We have to provide them job, employment. We have to provide education to their children. We have to take care of the health of their wards and their families. And of course, as Dr. Kiranji said, that hygiene, nutrition, these all have to be incorporated in the program. So this holistic approach means to create an inclusive approach, because we know that they have been excluded. They have been shunned, ostracized by their own parents. And the stigma started by themselves, by a patient own self. And then the family rejected them, family thrown them out, then the society. And then ultimately, finally, a leprosy affected person is, wandering here and there for no sense in the life. So that sense has to be provided. That insecurity has to be removed, and he or she should feel that, yes, I also, even if I am affected by the disease, I have a right to live with dignity and with self-esteem. That's what we are doing in the organization of Sarthak Manav Kusthashram. And we are not only taking care of people here in our care in Jaipur and Ajmer. In addition to that, as we all know, that the main burden of leprosy is in Bihar, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, and all these states. So we have also taken a few self-settled colonies of Bihar in Chhapra, Patna, Ara, Samastipur, and Saharsa. So we are seeing that people are still not accepted. And of course, the opportunities are not there. With this holistic approach, we should provide them an atmosphere where they feel secured and where they feel that, yes, they are also an inclusive part of the community. It's it's a summary of what social approach, according to me, should be adopted everywhere. Thank you very much. And you all are stalwarts in the field of leprosy. I'm very happy that I know all of the dignitaries here, and Dr. Katoch sir, Dr. Kiranji, Dr. Yos Agarwal, Dr. Dinesh Mathur, and Dr. Kar I came to know today. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sureshji. Thanks a lot. I'll request Dr. Katoch, Dr. Vishwamohan Katoch, to kindly concisely wind up the session and give his expert comments. And please do stay. After that, we will convert this meeting into the homage prayer meeting of Dr. A.K. Bajaj, who was a stalwart. So I thought, please.
Thank you, Professor Mathur sir.
Yes, sir.
I think I first must actually compliment Dr. Hemant Kar, Dr. Kiran Katoch, and Suresh Kaulji for, I think, sharing their excellent views. The question is, the last mile is proving difficult. Today, when we celebrate the success, and remember the father of the nation, who gave a lot of his symbolic gesture to fight the leprosy stigma, actually, and to look after the people. And he wanted to come to close the colonies. He wanted to come to close them, that there's a total inclusion, like what Suresh Kaulji is emphasizing, and that's the goal actually. I think what we say today, really to sum up, when we are celebrating success, the last 1% or whatever percent you talk about has proved very difficult. The success of, if in 15 years we have achieved only 30% decline in the total numbers, it clearly shows the strategies have failed to reach to the people. And so we can't celebrate the success. Okay, we have not allowed the situation to deteriorate, but we have not succeeded in, achieving a success much faster it could have been. And everybody knows the reason for failure also. So as a society, as a specialist, as a professional like your Dermatology Consortium of India, how you connect the people, the question is the connection. So I think today's day is to look at where the program stands. Today, Nikhil, is where the needs are there to improve the treatment, the social environmental interventions. I think the need is to connect, and that means the most affected people are connected early enough. And then all other measures which could have been implemented long back have not been done. So I think how you make a grand coalition to fight a very small enemy which looks small, but it affects people. And I think is a day to reflect on that. This time it is a 4th symposium on leprosy in a consecutive because of the webinar. And we have been sharing the views from IDBL has played a very active role. I think the IL also is trying to do its part. But the question is a broad coalition of everybody. And that broad coalition will be something to achieve, must to reach the 2030. But Kaul is very optimistic on that. I'm not, certainly, because I know the Indian mentality, this takes a very backseat as the time moves. But hopefully I should be proven wrong. I will be very happy if I'm proven wrong, that we really achieve the last mile early enough. Optimistic, but very cautious seeing what has happened in the last 15 years. I think, but still the fight has to continue. We don't have to let the situation go bad towards the worst actually. It is improving certainly, but not improving fast enough. So with these words, sir, I thank you for, I think, all the time roping me in. Thank all the, I think the people who listen, about 20 odd people, but the 20 odd people are so good enough to make a movement actually. So I think there's certainly nothing, I'm not discouraged by that. Even if it was a general session, there would not have been more than 20 anyway. So even by web, we are there, 20 people. So I think that's an excellent, sir. And we laud your approach, Professor Dinesh Mathur. We saw the Didi also on the screen somewhere, but I think she's gone. And best wishes to all of you.
Thank you very much, sir. And thanks a lot for this. And I thought when I was planning this program 2 days back only, so I thought that we will do this World Leprosy Day, as well as after that we will do there's a organization CODFI, Contact and Occupational Dermatosis Forum of India, which I was being made the president, and Dr. Bajaj happened to be the father figure of all these activities. So we lost Dr. Bajaj because of the corona this thing. So I thought we will keep his homage prayer meeting also today. So I will invite Dr. P.K. Srivastav, who Dr. Srivastav has working with Dr. Bajaj. Just a moment, let me see.
Sir, I'm here.
Yes.
I'm audible, sir?
Yes.
Yes.
So good morning to all of you. It's a great loss for me as well as for all of us. Dr. Bajaj sir is an exceptional, unmatched personality, an eminent dermatologist, and a great academician. Nurtured and inspired so many dermatologists. He was an institutional by himself. It's very difficult to get all these qualities in a one man. This void can never be filled. Bajaj sir was born in Pakistan, probably in Lalpur, that is in a Sindh province of Pakistan. And after the partition, his family came to India and settled at Panipat. Dr. Bajaj did his education from the TAV College of Panipat, and after that did his MBBS from Rohtak Medical College. After that, he has done his PG post-graduation from All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi, And in 1973, after completing that, he joined Allahabad Medical College as a lecturer at that time. And from that time, the dermatology of Allahabad is known by the name of Dr. A.K. Bajaj. I joined Dr. Bajaj in the year of Bajaj sir in the year of 2007, and for the last 13 years, he taught me like a kid, not only the science, but mainly the art of practicing dermatology. Because you, in your post graduation, you learn science a little bit, but art of practicing is very important, and that he taught me very meticulously. He was one of who motivated me in the field of contact dermatitis. Whatever I have done little bit in the field of contact dermatitis nationally as well as few times and internationally, it is because of him only. Skin problem at Allahabad means Dr. Bajaj. Not only in Allahabad, also in the neighboring state. He was just like a father to me, and I have no hitch in saying that I have lost my father. You ask anything from him, it may be personal, organizational, academic. He used to give his open, sincere, and practical advice to anybody. And one of the unique quality of Dr. Bajaj that he quickly recognizes the talent or a good quality of person, whether it will be academic or organizational or even personal. His vision and wisdom has made many of us what we are today. Sir might not be physically here, but always be in our heart. At the end, I would like to say that we could not take it out, Dr. Bajaj sir, from a ventilator, but we should try our level best to take out the cord fee from the ventilator, as he said in the cord fee, one of the annual conference of the cord fee at the Jaipur. Dr. Mathur sir might be knowing this, that he said the cord fee is on the ventilator. So we try our level best to take it out cord fee from the ventilator. We lost Dr. Bajaj, but we will try our level best. He will always live in our heart. Sir, we love you and we are going to miss you forever. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Anyone else? Dr. Ashok Khare, Dr. Asad, Dr.
Yes.
Nagpur, Dr. Lalit, please.
May I speak, sir?
Yes, sir, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks. I think Dr. Bajaj was the father figure to most of us. And his loss is a personal loss to each of us. That itself tells how we used to nurture the relationships. To me, he always encouraged. He always used to ask me, what's up? What are you doing new? And I think there is no one who can replace Dr. Bajaj. So his loss is absolutely something that has shattered all of us. And if you see all these groups that we have and the kind of outpouring that people shared, that shows that he was, how popular he was, right through length and breadth of India in dermatology. So, sir, we'll miss you. We'll try to incorporate whatever good values that you have shared with us. Thank you.
Next. Dr. Lalit, Dr. Niranjan, Dr. Yasmin, would you like to say?
Hello. Yeah, good afternoon. Good afternoon, sir. I know Dr. Bajaj from last few years. Once although I had heard a lot about him, but I had personal interaction with him once I was the secretary of CODFI. So I found him a very humble and gentle person who was very enthusiastic in carrying out the research and all the academic activities related to not only to contact dermatitis, but overall dermatology as well. I knew him once. We went to Allahabad for the conference. Like, he was so down to earth. He was waiting for us, Dr. Ifat and me, though we were so junior to sir. But he behaved so nicely and was such a courteous host. And overall, sir has been so encouraging, though we were very junior, and telling us that you go on carrying the research, you go on doing the work in CODFI. And his loss is a very great loss to whole of the dermatology fraternity of India. Definitely, I think it is, we cannot replace him by any means. It's a very great loss to all of us. I wish sir rest in peace, and he's always in our hearts, and whole of the dermatology fraternity will respect him for all the years, all the coming years. Thank you.
Dr. Dinesh.
Hello. Hello.
Manisha?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's a great setback to CODFI, and for most of the things they have been said by others are truly experienced by me also. But overall, he was a very witty person. Whenever we met him, he was always smiling and encouraging. So I remember his witty smile and encouraging attitude. We will really miss him, and nobody can fulfill his deficiency in CODFI. But we wish that CODFI goes to his, fulfills his dreams and reaches up to the sky. Thank you very much.
Dr. Lalit, Dr. Ashok, Dr. Lalit.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Can I say a few words?
Please, I requested you for that.
Yeah, see, Dr. Bajaj became a good friend of mine because we're of the same age, 75. And since during the conference we used to meet, and then he used to always make a joke of me, saying that Nagpur is in Bombay. So because since my surname is Nagpur, so he used to always say that, oh, Nagpur in Bombay. So we started practice almost in 1974 together. So we practiced for 48 years. He's a very jolly person. And once there was a conference on allergy that got in Bombay, and he was a speaker and I was a chairperson. I was the chairperson. So he said, "Oh, Nagpur is the chairperson. I have to be very careful. I cannot exceed my time. Otherwise, he's going to kill me." That's how it is really a big loss to me as a good friend. Not only that, it's a big loss to the IADVL on national level, and of course IADVL to the UP branch. I pray God to give enough strength to his bereaved family to bear the loss, and I pray God for peace. I really miss him, really miss him. Thank you, Dinesh.
Dr. V.K. Sharma, ex-HOD, all those two.
Hello.
Dr. V.K. Sharma, please.
Okay. Dr. Bajaj was one of the great Amazonians. He was not our teacher, but he was able to help people after, even if they have graduated, after they have qualified. Particularly in CODFI, if you see that patch test chamber, we were making it in Chandigarh, but nobody was looking at it. He came, looked at it, and he said, this should be used all over India. He had the vision for contact dermatitis and making patch test kits. His was a personal contribution, which I would say even Dr. Sicha is very respected for us, but Dr. Bajaj's contribution in making that kit was more than anyone else. We were all helping from the sidelines. We were provided patch test unit, but he got the chemical, tested them along with Dr. Srinivas. He was able to make a great contribution. At the same time, whenever you meet, he could classify Sharmas into many types. All Pandey, Dwivedis and everything, he had jokes for everyone. If you go to Allahabad, he was a very good host, and he would look after everyone. Even if you go by train, he will dispatch you in the evening with a dinner so that you are not hungry on the train. And his smile was always ready. And he continued to work for the association, encouraging people all over India not only me, but there are many others who remember him. He's supporting Rajiv Sharma for secretary, or Kaushik Lahiri, or many other people. So he was a really very broad-minded dermatologist, real IDVLite, special codfician. He supported Codfi, he nurtured it, and we are going to really miss him. When he got admitted with COVID, we never thought that this will be the result, because he was talking, he was recovering very well. So with all the IADVL members, I will like to remember him forever. And we should certainly do something to solidify his memory in the eyes of future generation, whether it is an oration, whether it is an award or something. I think we should ask the IADVL. Codfi will do something certainly, but we should ask the IADVL also to plan something for him. With this, I pay my Shraddhanjali to him and will remember him forever. Thank you.
Dr. Hemant, would you like to speak a few words? You are mute. You are mute. Hemant, you are mute.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Mathur. It's a very sad moment for us. And a person like Professor Bajaj is so much well known to each and every dermatologist of this country because of his work on contact dermatitis. He will be remembered all over, not only in this country but also all Asian countries. And he is such a lovable man. When you will go to his home, he takes you as a host and guest. He'll take care of everything. Once upon a time, I would go to his home, and he took us, went around the Allahabad, and he's always smiling face, and I really miss him. Not only me, all of the dermatologists miss him, and I pay my homage to him and condolence to his wife and his daughter, and let this great soul rest in peace and Om Shanti.
Dr. Dilip Shah, I can see from Pune. Dr. Dilip, can you connect? Dr. Dilip Shah. I can see him on the screen. Dr. Khare, Dr. Ashok Khare.
Yes, truly speaking, I am speechless. It is very difficult to find suitable words to talk about Dr. Bajaj. It is great loss to all of us and dermatology as a whole. And he was very gentle, very friendly, and very helpful person always. And we will miss him very much. I offer my Shraddhanjali to Dr. Professor Bajaj. Deepest condolences.
Anyone else would like to express?
Yes, yes.
Please.
Those are most of the things have been said by most of the speakers. But I remember him that he was a very regular attendee at our AIMS alumni meet, come what may. So even being so much of senior person, he used to come regularly at all the AIMS alumni meet and used to encourage the fellow junior beings. And he was a very charming, smiley, always friendly, affectionate person, not only to his colleagues but to his juniors like me and Dr. Asit and many. So he's in a true sense mentor and a guide to many of us. And the void created by his demise would never be fulfilled in our lives. He was an excellent teacher, researcher, and a very, very humble and a polite human being. And we'll all deeply miss him, and may his noble soul rest in peace. Atmik Shraddhanjali and Om Shanti.
Well,
I think Dr. Jaiswal is there online. Jaiswal. Ashok Kumar Jaiswal. He wants to say something.
Sure. Dr. Ashok Jaiswal.
Well,
Major General Jaiswal, please.
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes, sir.
I think everything has been said about great Dr. A.K. Bajaj. Only thing I can say mention is that he was my namesake, Ashok, and he also used to always call me Ashok Bhai, and I also used to call him Ashok Bhai. And we knew each other since 1980, 84, I think, when dermatology IEDWL conference used to be just 400, 500 delegates attending. And as rightly said by each and everyone, that there is no replacement for his loss. And we wish and pray that his soul rest in peace, and Om Shanti. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share some few words about great Dr. Ashok Kumar Bajaj. Thank you, Dinesh.
So with that word, probably we end this meeting. Om Shanti, Om Shanti.
Om Shanti, 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 Shanti.
Om Shanti. Shanti.
Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.